Hi everyone, my username is Hosharyu and I am a top 50 ability draft player in Europe and have recently won a tournament, and I wanted to record a video explaining how an experienced ability draft player thinks during the draft. So I prepared the 5 rules to think when you draft. First of all, which spells are Imba? Of course, when you load, the first thing you're gonna see are the strongest spells. What are you going to draft during the first round? In this random draft that I generated, the strongest spells are LSA, Corrosive Skin, Glaives of Wisdom, Wild Access, Tree Grab, Avalanche, Leap, Wukong's, Primal Roar, and I would say none of the models are like super important to take in the first round. Okay, so it's most likely that we're going to take some of those. And based on those, we will make the rest of our decisions. The second rule, what are the available ability combos? For this, we need to dive deeper. For example, you have to look what combos with Swashbuckle, and you can see that Swashbuckle combos with the Impetus. So that's something you need to keep your mind on. You have to make sure that you don't accidentally give that away, especially during the later picks. It's even more important. The third rule, what are the available hero combos? You look at the heroes, you think of their innates, you think of their uh, facets. For example, I see a Kotl here. When I see a Kotl, I think, okay, what are available low cooldown, low mana cost abilities that he can spam? I see Impetus, I see Glaives of Wisdom. So I see, okay, either we need to take the Kotl, or we will need to take both of those before he can take them. Which positions should I draft early? And what I mean by this is not all pools are equal. In some pools there's more carry spells, in some pools there's more nuclear spells, in some pools there's more stuns, in some pools there's no stuns. And based on what is the most limited, that will affect which you want to take early, because otherwise you're just not gonna get it at all. Because usually, if you're playing in a 5 stack, of course, you want to have balanced roles. You want to have a proper post 3, you want to have a proper mid laner, you want to have a proper carry. You don't want 3 right clickers, unless the pool is just full of right click. And you want to have good supports that have control, that would have a wave clear, that have at least maybe some survivability if you can afford that. So yeah, this helps have a proper balanced team, because if you don't take what's limited, you might have a bad post 3. You might have a bad mid laner, and that could ruin your game. Fifth point, what counters what? Of course, that's also really important. For example, Global Silence is a very nice niche first round pick, because if there is a black hole, for example, you have to take global before you take black hole, because it closes black hole to the enemy. They probably need to take it because it's hard to play into both global and black hole, but they're gonna take it and be very sad. Also, global, for example, is also very good against Storm Spirit in a pool or Puck spells, because it's most likely that the mid laner is going to be playing with those, and countering him with global is going to be very, very nice. So now let's actually use these rules in practice and see what I would draft myself. So I see a lot of magic in this pool. There's a lot of magical damage, and so my first thought is to grab Corrosive Skin. First of all, there is really not that much post 3 spells that I see available. If you look at this pool, even like considering the heroes, like the post 3 heroes are sometimes Pango, sometimes Viper, Beastmaster, and pretty much that's it. So yeah, Corrosive Skin is very good against magic, and it's gonna help you have a secure position 3. Now as Radiant, now as Dire, first pick, I either take Fire Soul or Avalanche. I think both are valid. It just depends on what you value. But I see that there's not too many stunts in this pool. I see that the only really two good stunts, uh, not two, sorry, but more like three, are Avalanche, Light Strike Array, and Primal Roar. The rest are, there's also like Boundless, but you're not taking that on the support. You're taking that on the core, most likely. So personally, I would take Avalanche. Another reason why I prefer this over taking Fire Soul or Glaives is because the models in this pool are like there's a big difference between Alina and the Mirana. And preferably, you want to have Glaives and then Lina and take them consecutively. And it's it's less likely that you take these consecutively if your enemy drafts, for example, Glaives, then he really wants to take Lina. So it's preferable if you make your enemy draft that first. But that's really hard to think on the spot, of course, because even especially if you're playing with randoms, you don't know what they're gonna pick. You can't pre-plan that. There are anomalies. There are uncontrollable factors most of the time. Okay, but of course I'm speaking more in a 5 versus 5 concept. So now, if I'm Radiant, again, I want to take either Primal Roar or Light Strike Ray, and I would take probably Primal Roar. It goes through BKB, and it also uh, Primal Roar could be a way for Dire to make a post 3, a somewhat valuable post 3, and this helps like remove that option. So actually, because of this, it is also valid to take Primal Roar instead of Avalanche, but I personally think of Avalanche very highly as a support main. So I would understand both, but I prefer Avalanche. And I take Light Strike Ray on Dire. This is most likely going to be the second support, and now pretty much all of the main control is gone. But Radiant still needs to have a support. So you ask yourself, what useful things can the support do? And there's multiple options. Either you take the global, either you take the Viper Strike so that your Nether Toxin guy is not being broken. Track to make plays, Arcane Curse, or even perhaps a Chakra, but personally I'm not too big of a Chakra guy. And all of those options seem okay. Let's go with Viper Strike so that we can be sure that because the Dire don't have a post 3, and perhaps this could be an ulti that the post 3 would take and initiate with it. So now with Dire, again, we want to force the enemy to make a choice first, because you're fine playing both Fire Soul and Glaives and Leap, like it's okay. So let's make our position 3. Let's try just to do something. Like most likely he will be with Shield Crash. If he's with Shield Crash, then perhaps we can combine that with something. You could you could go a variety of directions here. Honestly, what I would do personally is just get the access. It's going to secure the lane for you. You know you're not gonna lose it at least. There's also not too many like tanky models. I see Titan, I see Beastmaster, but that's really it. You're not gonna play a Tiny. So if you're not super likely to get a tank, but perhaps you could get a Beastmaster who has talents for wild access. So this works out reasonably. And now as a Radiant, you don't you can't wait anymore. You have to make a choice. You pick the best of the options. I would go Fire Soul, let's say. And again, we still have to keep in mind the combos. Like we previously mentioned, we have to keep in mind the Kotal. We have to keep in mind the Swashbuckle with Glaives and Impetus. And so because of this, it creates a very interesting dynamic right now because there's going to be a lot of counter picking in these slots. For example, if you take something like Leap here, then you're securing a combo for this slot because this guy cannot deny it by himself. So actually, perhaps this makes this wrong because you're putting yourself in a situation where you're giving away a combo. However, because there's multiple combos available, it's actually not really a bad thing because most likely one of you getting is one combo and one of you getting the other combo. So let's say you are getting Glaives, and then this is most likely carry, and this is most likely mid. Then they're going to get Impetus and let's say a Kotal. Is this strong? Maybe not. So perhaps Swashbuckle instead. And then with Glaives, you either take a model or you could still do the Kotal. Although, again, maybe overrated combo, maybe it's not worth it. Maybe you can just take the poison attack. So personally, I think poison attack is pretty cool. Double shard. Of course, you always have to think about shard. You always have to think about facets. You should most likely have at least one working facet on your hero. Um, so yeah, always think about that. Make sure you don't fuck up and accidentally draft two spells that both need facets, like must-have facets. For example, Overcharge. Overcharge is useless without its facet. So if you're picking it, you have to make sure that that's the facet you're going to get. Okay, so in this position, you see, as I mentioned earlier, there's only really two like very good models. So you really want to get one of them, and you get the Lina. And so then he has to take Monkey King because you don't want to be stuck with an inferior model. There is, of course, Silencer, but I personally find him a little bit overrated. So yeah. And then you can get Chakra with Access. That's a very, very, very nice combo. And on the support with with the Viper Strike, you just want to get any useful spells. You could get an arrow because it's some sort of stun. If of course if you can hit it. Or you can do Arcane Curse. Yeah, both are valid. But I would take Arcane Curse because I see a guy with Chakra. I see a lot of like spells casting, so it's going to work nicely. On this support, you could get the arrow. You have to think like this guy already has an ulti, this guy doesn't. What are the potential ultis that he could take? If any of them are the ones you want to take, then you should take them. But As far as I see, not really. So I would just take their arrow. And on this support, again, just look for something useful, but this pool is pretty poor for support, so there isn't like much useful left. You could just like grab the toss because you're going to have a blink. You know gonna have a blink with Primal Roar, so you can also combine that with toss, and you're also denying it from the Avalanche guy. And here, again, just look for some useful spell. Maybe you want to deny something for him. I don't think so. So you can just get the track. So now this is your post 3. We know that post 3 models are lacking. You have to secure the Titan. And after you secure the Titan, you really want to get something more proactive. Planning ahead, most likely the monkey is getting the tree grab. The Lina is gonna get the Wukongs if you don't take it. So it is a good idea to grab the Wukong yourself. It's a double Aghanim. It works nicely for you. It's harder to gank you, and you're also denying it from the enemy. And here, just again, take something useful. On support, you don't have to prioritize models unless you're denying. So we see that he needs a model and he needs a model. What do they have? Silencer, Kotal. Perhaps Miran. Perhaps Enchantress. So actually, it is a good idea to grab the Silencer because he is the strongest of them, of the available. And if he had the opportunity, he would take the Silencer. The rest of the models are like reasonably close together. So uh, if one of them he gets, the other one he gets, like you're both most likely going to come of that exchange happy. Here you can deny the Starstorm if you're afraid of the Aghanim on the support. You can get a farming spell with the toss. You can also get the tree dance if you want to roam, which is not a bad idea. You could also leave it to the monkey. So let's just, I don't know, let's take the Nether Toxin. Why not? And here you look, what are they gonna take? He's gonna take Tree Grab, he's gonna take Model. What ultis do they want? Perhaps Untouchable, perhaps Global, perhaps Spirit Form. You can either take the Starstorm or you can take the Spirit Form, you can take the Global. It's up to you. Let's just, for the sake of simplicity, say you want the Starstorm. Sure. And you're making the situation harder for this support because yeah, now he has less things to pick. Maybe perhaps he just gets last word. Okay, you don't have to worry about model here because he is not getting the Beastmaster. Even if he is, you're just gonna take something else. You take the Shield Crash. That was your original plan. No one else really wanted to take it, so you get it and you're happy. Of course, we take the Tree Grab on Monkey. And on Lina, since this is most likely our carry, because this guy needs levels, we have to think what's going to win us the game. Most likely what's going to win us the game is Spirit Form. Sorry, Astral Spirit. And here we know that this is mana expensive. It would be really nice if we have a Kotal. Also high attacks, high speed, and just in general very useful as an intelligence hero with glaives. Now I have to take a model because there's two supports that I've yet to pick, and when you know you're going to be last picking a hero, if you don't pick one, you look at the two worst models. You see a Tiny, you see a Pangolier or a Beastmaster, and you're like, yeah, I'm not playing any of those. I have to pick now. So you pick an Enchantress. Afterwards, you look, am I going to last pick an ulti? If so, what are the three ultis that are going to be left? And you see that the Elder Titan ulti, Laguna, maybe Moonlight. Also Grow. Which one of do you really want any of those? I mean, you're not going to be too sad. So you have to think also, like, what is your hero lacking? Right now, I would say survivability, but it's a bit hard. Actually, no, it's not hard to fix this. You take the nature's attendants, and now like your hero is more well-rounded. On Kotal, you have to think what my hero is lacking, and the hero is lacking wave clear, in my opinion. It cannot hit heroes well, but it needs wave clear. But you need to take ulti first because there's a lot of ultis yet to be picked, and a good ulti to have is, in my opinion, Spirit Form on mids, especially because you can have global presence on the map. On Lina, you don't worry too much about picking ulti because only Monkey King is the one without an ulti. So again, you think, what am I lacking? I'm lacking a wave clear. And really nice spot to take here is Boundless. First of all, because you're denying it from Monkey. Second of all, because you get a wave clear. On Monkey, you want to take an ulti, again, because these two have not yet picked. But you think, I'm fine with Grow. So are they going to take Grow? Most likely not. In that case, I don't need to take it right now. I can take something else. And I think really good on him with his natural order. Here, you know their ultis are already taken. You don't need to worry about it right now. So you just take whichever model you want. I personally would go with Pangolier because of Shield Crash. Even though, yes, we planned Beastmaster, but it ended up that Pangolier ended up being better. And here, you see this guy has two spells not picked. This guy is support. We don't care what model he has, like mostly. So you can just take normal spell. A very nice one here to take is Lucky Shot. Again, this is another concept. You think, which abilities am I going to max? Like, you're going to max these two, most likely. So you can take a third spell that's not necessarily, like, you're not going to level it early, but later it will be useful. And Lucky Shot is going to be quite annoying with Arcane Curse and Viper Strike, because it's two things that proc often. Here, you just take a model, again, because ultis are already taken. You select the best model, and it's, of course, Mirana. She has talents, and it's the best of the available. Here, you think, what am I liking? And I think really nice here would be Shadow Walk. It lets you maybe escape after Blink, or make plays early game, while people have not yet bought Dusts, and there's not too many sentries on the map. It's just like some mobility, like, because this is most likely going to be the position 4 and this is most likely going to be the position 5. And on Silencer, you think, what is the most useful thing I can take? Is there anything that I need to deny from this guy? I wouldn't say there's anything you necessarily need to deny. You can just take the Junada for laning. On Silencer model, it's going to like be not too difficult to trade with it. On Titan, you think, what am I lacking? He lacks a bit of wave clear, so you can take the Shuriken with the Facet. And what else is he lacking? He's lacking a bit of catch, so you can take Enchant. Now on Silencer, you think, who else hasn't gotten a spell? And it's only Kotal. You think, what does Kotal want? Probably Jingu or more likely Dragon Slave because he needs a nuke. So because it is the only nuke available, you take Dragon Slave and force him into Jingu, which to a noob might sound, scary, but it really is not. Now here you know that you're going to be a very contact hero and you want mobility, so you take Bounty Hunter. He's quick, he's melee, high armor hero. And now you just get all the ultis. Mirana can get the global. Here you take the best model available, which is Viper. The Pango can get his own ulti. The Monkey can get the Grow. Lina can perhaps get the Untouchable or the Laguna. I would say the Laguna for Aghanim synergy. Kotal gets the Jingu. And Ench can get the Impetus. The Untouchable. And so this is my ability drafting guide. I hope you had fun. Tell me in the comments which team you think ended up stronger. Thank you. I hope you learned something, and goodbye.